Welcome to Community Crossfire, another point of view. I'm your host, Norman Oliver. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another hot show. We've had on politicians, we've had on community and folks, we've had on a number of different people talking about crime, especially in the City of Wilmington. But tonight, we have an exclusive interview with the Chief of Police, Chief Mike Szczerba. He's always been open, and I think that this will be one of the more critical interviews that we have with him. Before I go to the Chief, I do have a few announcements. First of all, let me thank Kevin Carr, who've done so much work to get this on Facebook, to Crossfire, and also Mike Riley, who puts it on YouTube. I mean, these guys have really been working with me to try to expand our viewership. Also, I want to give a shout out to ladies of Delta Sigma Theta. I went to the event with my good friend Leonard Potter on Friday night, and I can still do the two-step. I was getting my little groove on, a little dance. Yeah, and I thought the event was very classy. I want to thank the Deltas for, the incredible turnout they had. I mean, it was just a nice time. I had a really nice time. I'm glad I was able to participate. Also, let me, on a different note, there was a lady, 99% of you who are watching probably never heard of her, Mary White. Miss Mary White served as executive director of the Southbridge Neighbor House from 1964 probably to 1983. She was the first white person that came in our neighborhood and transformed our neighborhood and brought about race relations and also like Bible school, camps and things of that nature. And she passed away at 93 years old. And me personally, I think that we should rename, I was talking to guys like Bob Cannon and Venner and my sister Chavella, we should rename the neighborhood house to the Mary White Neighborhood House. I mean, no one, a lot of people done a lot, but for that agency, I don't think she takes backseat to anyone. And the funds and the things that she did for our neighborhood is incredible, and she's greatly missed by me and all of our friends. Also, I got two more announcements before I go to the Chief. Penn Cater Charter School, I've been following this. Now, please tell me how this works. We have a guy like Theo Gregory who builds a school from the bottom up, builds a charter school, puts his heart and soul in it. They kick him out on some kind of technicality. Kick him out the state, they just dogs the guy. Now we have a lady, and I'm not really dogging the lady, but she's there, so maybe I am, has a false, well, maybe not false, allegedly doctorate degree, and she's running the school. And you don't see the state running in, grabbing it. They got more problems at that school than you can imagine. And I don't hear an outcry, like get rid of her. And let me give a shout out to my good friend Sony. Sony, thank you for all your help. I know you've been trying to help us out on the social media tip. Thank you, and thank everyone else. Chief, how you doing?
Doing
Welcome to the show.
Got me thinking about that two-step.
Yeah, I could dance a little bit. Right. Like I said, this guy, Kev's been helping me out with Crossfire, and so someone did have a question. Shawana Ward had the first question. She said, I have a question for the police chief. When are police going to have a race training, for example? I live in Loving Avenue near Brandywine. One particular day, staying outside, resident, speaking to his sister, having a conversation before I noticed police. Pretty much like she's saying, like she lived on Loving Avenue, and pretty much I guess Shawana Ward is asking, is there going to be some police training, or do you have police training on race relations, because she felt violated?
Well, we have that in our academy curriculum. We're compliant with the Council on Police Training for the state of Delaware, so we have that periodically for all police officers. Whenever there's a situation like that arises, a particular incident, we have the Officer Professional Standards, and if there's a complaint to be made, it can be made through that office, and then we'll look into the matter.
Mm-hmm. Chief, let me ask you a pointed question. You and I have been friends for a long time, and I know you personally, and I really don't know, but it has to trouble you. When you look at these record shootings in the city that you grew up in, and you come up through the ranks, and we've had a number of conversations. How do you feel? What goes through your mind when you see the incidents after incident?
What comes to mind is the negativity that overwhelms a city when they can see the end result of what's been occurring over decades is now resulting in the violence that we see in the city. But we seem to be spinning our wheels and be able to get to the root problem of where the root causes are, because long before a trigger is ever pulled, the root causes start years or maybe decades way before that, where that's why the issue's now surfacing. Of course, everyone looks at the drug activity and you know, how's that, you know, consuming and damaging our community, essentially, because the basic community is the family. And when you have that deterioration in that cause with the, you know, amount of drug usage, and then it just tumbles from there. It tumbles from there where you'll see it reflective in the, you know, our overwhelming dropout rate for high school people, high school kids in the city. Some neighborhoods it's astonishing, you know, the city overall probably about 50%. So we're putting initiatives into place in the police department, so we're just not thinking, oh, this problem's so bad and, you know, we're just going to deal with the reoccurring violence. We're not. We've, you know, we instituted back in 2006 our child development community policing program to where, you know, we have clinicians available 24 hours a day for follow-up, for referrals for family.
Right.
We've done about 3,800 of those referrals here alone in the city since
Wow.
2006. Unfortunately, some families aren't ready to accept that. We got about a 30% acceptance rate to where they actually accept services for referrals. We've seen some success stories, and hopefully we'll see the community will benefit from that down the road. It's too early to tell. Like I said, we only started in 2006, but it's been a valuable program.
How long have you been on the police force?
Just celebrated my 34th anniversary.
Wow, 34 years.
Yes, and working on my 12th year as chief, with the average tenure of a chief in Wilmington about 3 years, so I'm about 4 years beyond the, you know, normal tenure of a police chief. I've been fortunate with the, you know, support I've received from the people I work with every day, in the, not only in the police department but within the community. Support from our mayor, support from city workers. It's the only reason why I'm able to sit here today and still chief of police, you know,
Right.
going on 12 years, because I definitely haven't done it by myself. I think, you know, to step up and be accountable, I think I've showed the community that. So that's where I want to finish my service.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you just tuned in, we have the Chief, Mike Szczerba, as our guest this evening. Get your questions ready. We're going to ask some good questions. Chief, that brings me to the next question. 34 years. When you hear of organizations, group, or council members calling for you to resign and step down, I mean, you're human. That got to make you got to.
Right, right, and so are they. They feel pressure from their constituents. They think it's a simple solution to a very complex problem. And if you want that simple solution, if that's all it is, they would be doing it all over the country. And some cities have tried that. You know, you'll see cities with 7 police chiefs in 6 years' time, and see what happens in some of the other cities. So I think even if you know, pro or con on my side, I think one thing, if I've shown integrity in office, I think the police department in general, I'm not sitting here in the show talking about corruption. I'm not sitting here talking about excessive use of force. We're talking about violence in our community. Not that I'm proud of that, but, you know, that's the issue at hand. So I think with the credibility, the professionalism of our police department, I know that's not always the case, and, you know, occasionally we do trip up, but I think when we tripped up, we've been accountable, and I've been accountable coming on shows such as this to, you know, meet it head on. I think also council realizes that any issues, I've been in the committee meetings, you know, and I've always stood up. There's no issue I have ducked. I would try to bring everything to the forefront with the facts, and sometimes those facts are pretty tough to put out because it's something that folks don't want to hear, but I've always presented like that.
You know, you're coming down to the final days of your 12-year term. Is there anything that you could look back on and say that you regret, that if you had a chance to do something different, you would?
No, not really. The past couple of years, we've been through some pretty difficult times financially. I know it hurt the community, hurt the officers with the small group of officers that we had laid off, and then some officers were knocked out of their rank. That's maybe one regret. It's something I couldn't get around. But, you know, it was when they walked out that door and when those officers lost that rank, I guaranteed them that they would all come back if they chose to be able to come back to their job. And they're all back on the job present day. But that has a long-lasting impact on those officers, their families, the community thinking the police department's unstable because we had layoffs. But, you know, with the small amount that we did have, facing, you know, what we were facing, what other cities were facing, and seeing some drastic cutbacks. So I think we've been fortunate. We're turning this thing around. Hopefully, I'm not speaking out of school, but we could look at maybe hiring some time in the near future for some of the vacant positions we have. So we got a lot good happening in this city. That's why I would like to see more folks talking about that. I always try to bring up the positive, but sometimes within our line of business, not everything's positive. But when you see what's going on with the development in our city, you know, the the financial status of our city, although it's not the greatest, but a lot of people working hard to keep us where we are today and hopefully move forward. And when you have businesses coming in, locating in the city, which you see in the riverfront, the development we see in some of our neighborhoods, I've traveled to other cities, and that's not occurring there, believe me.
Well, in saying that, like the regrets, what is something satisfying that you said, wow, that you accomplished, or the end of your tenure you could look back on, and just tell somebody, I'm glad that we did this as a force, or I did this as a chief?
I think what we stepped outside of, when you think of law enforcement and police, that's it. But I think with us stepping outside, where I mentioned the Child Development Community Policing Program, the way our officers police in the community with district integrity, with our community policing unit, with what they've been involved in, our detectives. You talk about overwhelmed with work, because when you talk about the reoccurring violence, they're the ones that follow up on all that, and the pressure they have, and the stand-up job that they have done. To be able to have the contacts that they have in the community with the numerous community organizations, with the leadership that's shown there, working with us hand in hand. It doesn't always make that front page article, but it's there, and we wouldn't be surviving as a city if that didn't happen. So I think with the relations we have, with the work from the officers, I think we present a total service, police service package that not too many cities can match. We're again fully reaccredited by the Commission for Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. Some people may think it's a plaque on the wall or just a rubber stamp, but in the state of Delaware here, we're an accredited state, and something to be proud of. Because I know at one time there were 7 accredited agencies in the state of Delaware, one being the Wilmington Department of Police. And then a city the size of New Jersey, there were only 7 police departments in the entire state were accredited. So I think it shows that we're meeting the highest standards set forth for police departments. I know it's not the end all, but it shows that that's what's out there, and we meet those standards.
Now, there's been a tug of war with City Council and the police department on deployment. And if you can help me understand, and the viewing audience understand, community policing on deployment. I mean, I don't want you to tell me all you guys' strategy. I mean, because then the bad guys will really get away.
Right.
It seems to me, right, that community policing guys just walking in neighborhoods makes sense to me. Is that what council's saying? Is that what you guys are not saying, or are we all off base? What's going on?
Well, when somebody's saying that just walking, they're totally out of the picture, in that it has to be more than that. It has to be more than just walking officers. And when you're trying to police in the year 2012 with maybe some 1950, 1940 tactics, it's just not going to work. So we have to strike that balance. I don't see it as a tug of war. I see it with when you get criticism like that, they're just saying, hey, we want to see more of what you're doing. And what I mean by that is that they're seeing some successes, but we want to see more of it. And that's the way I get it. If you look at for what whoever's plan, his plan, my plan, their plan, they pretty much overlap. There's some consistency in that, what we're doing, but maybe they're just not seeing it like that. Maybe they got a different idea that would be all walking. So, if I had the order today that, no motor vehicle, no mobile patrols, everyone walking, I don't think folks would be satisfied with the response times. They're not satisfied with the response times sometimes now. But we have to strike that balance, and I think we have that balance. We have a department that we're led through intelligence-led policing, or how we do the assignments. When you're talking about, we can't reveal the full game plan,
right,
but we place those officers in a walking assignment, especially this summer, strategically placing them in the areas that we think they're needed most. And we do have spikes occasionally. We experienced 2 high-profile incidents. With one day we had 2 homicides, and then the incident we had down in Eden Park, where we tragically lost 3 lives were lost down there. But lo and behold, we're here through another weekend. I'm not here discussing the activity this weekend. I wouldn't have been here discussing the activity last weekend, because it was relatively quiet. When you're talking about the violence, there's other activity always going on, but that's just sometimes folks don't pay attention. You saw the response to those spikes, but you didn't see any response in February and March, where there were 0 homicides. Through last summer, July, August, into September, no homicides. So it was kind of back page. No one wanted to talk about it then.